and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and today I'm going to be playing with some of the Fun Stampers Journey supplies that I got from my Spellbinders haul a while ago. And I'm working on proper watercolor paper. This is actually the, I think it's the free, well, you pay for it, so I suppose it's not necessarily free, but it came with the set of ADHESIVES water-based aqua natural brush markers that I got, and so I thought I would give it a try. It's nice, thick watercolor paper, and what I did was I did spritz this paper initially, so that I'm basically working on sort of a wet on wet technique, and I let that first coat dry so that I can build up the color intensity. And what I'm trying to be a little bit careful with is pink and green, or red and green, are sort of opposites on the color wheel, and so if those two colors blend, it's going to create mud. So I'm trying to be careful to not actually let those two colors touch, and where they did touch a little bit, I just used my paper towel earlier to just sort of pull that off of the page. And then now I'm going to splatter with the very same colors that I used, but since they're not diluted with water, they're gonna look much more intense on the page. So I'm just using a water color brush, nice fine tip, so that I can get really small splatters. And I cut this panel down, and I used my markers. I think I used my ADHESIVES markers to actually color the flowers in. These flowers are from two different stamp sets that I got off of the Polkadoodles clearance section, so I don't know if they're still available. I'll link to it if it is still available. That way, if you like these, you can go check them out. And I just quickly stamped onto some masking paper. Well, really, it's Avery repositionable labels, which I use as masking paper because of the repositionable properties. It's very low tack and pretty inexpensive compared to proper masking paper. And so I'm just stamping out. So one of the stamp sets has, they're all sort of in the same doodle-like style. And one of the stamp sets has these stems that are separate from the flower buds. So I thought it would be kind of neat to stamp out the stems and then use the flower tops from the other stamp set that I have. And I've got these waterproof Jane Davenport markers. I think it's called the Ultimate Pen. And I use that to just sort of extend some of the stems because they weren't long enough. And then I even tried to kind of mimic that same style and drew in my own little leaf just to balance that out a little bit. And I think looking at this now, I think I would have preferred to have cut the flowers on the black line instead of leaving that little bit of a white border. So yeah, I think if I did something like this again, I would maybe cut that to right up to the black line. So I'm using the same ink, the same Fun Stampers Journey liquid color to stamp with. I wanted to use, there's this butterfly stamp that has some scripty words inside of it, and I thought that would make for a nice little extra detail, some extra texture on the background itself. And since on that card I thought about it last minute, for the other remaining portion of the first panel that I made, I went ahead and stamped that same butterfly stamp in the different colors that I used on the panel. And that just helps to, just like the splatters, it helps to create some different textures, some different visual interest on the background. And I'm gonna do pretty much the same thing. So there are these different kind of doodle like stems, so I'm going to use all the various kinds that I can find, and some of them do have flowers that are drawn in, but like this one here. But what I'm going to do though is try to ink up just the bottom portion and as little of the flower as possible, because I know I'm going to lay a die cut on top of it. Well, they're not cut from dies. I actually used my new brother Scan and Cut to cut out these images. And so because I am stamping onto watercolor paper, even though I am using my VersaFine Onyx black ink, which usually, especially with high quality stamps like these, it stamps perfectly without needing a stamp positioning tool. But because watercolor paper does have a bit of a texture to it, I wanted to make sure that I was getting really nice solid impressions. And so whenever you're in doubt, just use your stamp positioning tool, because even if you get a perfect stamping the first time, that's great. It only took a couple of extra seconds to pull out the tool. But if you don't get a perfect stamping, that's when it really comes in handy. And so I'm using a dotty tape runner to attach these, and I realized at the last minute that this panel is actually larger than what I need. So I would have, if I had thought about it a little bit earlier, would have trimmed off a little from the top and the bottom, but I'd already kind of stamped out the stems and everything, so I only trimmed off from the top. And that's the thing that I do like to always create like a background panel larger than what I think I'll need. But one thing that I never keep in mind is that when it's larger than what you need, often you're going to be trimming from the edges, right? So if I had kept that in mind, I would have made the green section a little bit more narrow, and the blue and the pink a little bit more wide. That way there's more of it to trim. So so that's just something that I need to just remind myself of, so I can keep it in mind next time. But I'm using that same Ultimate pen to just do some extra doodling. I'm not super comfortable with doodling just yet, but that's why I got this waterproof marker, is so that I can, especially in my art journal where I can really feel free to play, I want to just, get used to the idea of just scribbling, making some marks, adding some extra doodles and outlines, things like that. So I thought this was a nice little baby step where primarily I'm using the stamp, but I'm just kind of adding to it, extending to it a little bit. And so it's working out great. It worked a lot better than the fountain pen, which is a very, very fine tip. Well, I hope that you like these cards today, and if you did, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye!